Good morning, everybody. It's the pollinator, and listen, I just finished watching the movie Till, about Emmett Till. And for those of you who don't know the story of Emmett Till, I would highly encourage you to watch that movie. Now, it didn't win any Academy Awards. And my take on that is that I think there's a quota in all of those award ceremony shows that they don't want to make it look like we are overpowering the system, that our excellence is more than they care to publicize. Because you know what? The way that black people are in this country, we excel at everything that we do. They don't want to make us look too good, right? They don't want to make it look like we dominate in all areas of life. So, only a certain amount of people are they going to give space to in those awards. All of them. That's why I don't watch them. Because they're full of shit. They're rigged. And they're a social reality in this country that if you don't have friends of friends of friends and you aren't included in their social circles, if you're not sitting at that table, if you don't have those kind of connections, then quite frankly, you're not going to win, because they've got it all figured out how they're going to do those things. But anyway, let me go back to this movie. Let me go back to the fact that, did you know that Emmett Till, the murder, the brutal murder of Emmett Till, started the civil rights movement of the 1960s? His death, the way that he was killed, the way that those monsters got away with murdering that boy. He was only 14 years old. His mother paraded him around the way that he was found, out of that river that they put an anchor to his feet and hoped nobody would ever find him in that river. They shot him in the head. They beat him senseless. But because of that murder, and Medgar Evers and some other civil rights leaders witnessing that line of bullshit that happened at the trial, including the woman who lied on the stand about what Emmett Till did to her, you know, all of the atrocities that I experienced as a young boy, all of the racism, all of it came flooding back to me as I watched that movie. And I literally had to turn it off when that bitch, that old white woman, lied on the stand about what Emmett Till whistled at her. That's what he got murdered for. Because she lied to her husband, and I think husband's brother, I'm not sure who the other guy was, but I'm gonna try not to hit this mic or this table, and I'm holding on to my little my crystal, because I'm quite upset right now because of the fact that all of these everything that's going on right now in the United States, how the GOP, GQP, insane people in this country are trying to drag everything back. They would be happy if we didn't have voting rights again. They would be happy if we were slaves again. They would be happy if we had no rights at all. As a black man, as a black person, and as a trans person, they're coming after everything and everybody. The Supreme Court justices are tainted. And they are instituting laws behind everybody's back because they own the government. They've infiltrated every area of politics. They've infiltrated every area of every industry in the nation. So, they're going to try to take us back, and there just aren't enough people that care about this that vote. I mean, for all intents and purposes, we had a very big bubbling when George Floyd got murdered. But I stated it. I said it on another video, which I will find it, and it will be up over here. Last time I pointed it the wrong direction. But anyway, it'll be up over here. I said it that, you know, after a little while that'll die down and all those people will go away that cared about that. And the murders go on and on and on and on and on. And instead of getting lynched, now they've turned it into a TV, social media, video circus. Body cam circus. Circus. They know those body cams are on. Do they care? Now, no sooner did this man in Tennessee got murdered that something else has come to light in which a white man, a white police officer, Leo, murdered a black kid within 3 seconds of encountering him. And it's taken 9 months for nothing to happen. 9 months. Now, you know by the look of that, it's going to take 2 years. Now, notice how quickly they jumped on this Tennessee thing because it was black men. And one thing is for certain, the culture of the men in blue, the culture of the police, the KKK cops in this country is sick. It's demented. They lie. They should get fired for lying. But no sooner than they get fired, they can go to another precinct and get another job. That's what qualified immunity is getting for these guys. There is no national registry of police. And I don't understand why. Because every other important industry in this country, you have to have a license. You have to go through all sorts of things to practice your profession. Yet these guys, these men and women, don't have to have a license. They just have to have a license to carry a weapon. If they had licenses to be officers, they wouldn't get away. Licenses and no qualified immunity. If that was instituted, they couldn't go get another job at the next precinct or in another state. They don't deserve to be law enforcement officers if they're that fucking sick in the head that they would beat and torture and murder black bodies so easily. You don't see this happen with other bodies. And I'm not going to say black and brown. I don't know where that fucking came from. But they are not doing brown people like this. The way that they do us. The way they've been doing us for over 400 years. No other race of people in this country do they do what they do to black people. So fuck the black and brown business. I just don't know where that's coming from. I know better. And everybody who's saying that is way younger than me. I don't hear anybody my age on any kind of media stage say black and brown. Anyway, let's go back to Emmett Till. You know, last year, was it last year or the year before, where it came to light that the woman, what was her name? Oh, fuck her name. The woman who lied about what Emmett Till did. They found out that a warrant was out for her arrest. And so they were thinking about arresting her again, but decided she's white, she's old, she doesn't deserve to go to jail. Do we get those kinds of privileges in this country? They don't care how old we are. If they want to put us in jail, they will. If they want, I've seen a video last year, the year before, of them arresting a 70-something-year-old black woman and pushing and tossing her around the back of her car, putting her in jail without her medication. And it turns out she did nothing wrong. She did nothing to deserve that. It was a traffic stop. And they keep pulling this shit at traffic stops. Traffic stops. I'm so angry. Let me tell you why I'm angry is because black people these days, they don't give a shit as much as white people don't give a shit. This thing called unity doesn't exist. Equality doesn't exist, and it's going backwards. There's nobody that's mad enough. There's nobody fighting. I can't fight anymore. I can barely walk. I can fight with my pen. I can fight in emails. I can fight over the phone. And I make calls to Congress people and I write them. But how many of us are doing that? How many of the 13% of black people in this country are taking it seriously? This infiltration of white supremacists in society. How many? I just did an article. I had an article done about me in a business called Autostraddle, I think is the name. And I'll put that in the description so you can read the article yourself. It pretty much says the same thing that I've been saying and talking about my transition. But I had such a great time with that. We laughed. We talked for over an hour. And so what is in writing is a very small snippet of that interview. But I want you to know something. And this is for me. I'm going to make it very plain and clear that my emotions are on a roller coaster ride. Because, I can be extremely happy and then the next minute I see something and it pisses me off. So my emotions are going doop, 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 doop. Because people are not taking the nastiness about this country seriously. Especially around being black, let alone being trans. White society doesn't take any of it seriously. We are an afterthought. Oh, God forbid I talk about racial issues around white people. And it's why I've got shoved all over the place in social media. By Fucker Book, otherwise, by them. Facebook, by Medium. I got tossed off of Medium for harassing white men who trolled black women's articles on that platform. I came up and smacked them all in the face for trolling sisters, black women's articles on that platform. And for that, I got punished. For that, I got punished. Because we should be a protected class in this country, not just vulnerable to every white asshole who comes along. Because y'all don't protect us. And then everybody else is afraid to. Because they're afraid of what's going to happen to them. They're afraid of what's going to happen to their accounts if they stand up for somebody else. Oh yeah, they've got us trained all right. Many of us. They don't have me trained. I find a way to get to do what I do fearlessly without that level of concern for myself, more than I'm concerned about my brethren. I'm the exact opposite of what 99% of people are about in this country. Leaves me standing alone, leaves me, I don't feel lonely, but it leaves me alone. It leaves me one of a few people who will do that, who will put their life on the line, who will put it all on the line for somebody else. How many of you will do that? Honestly. That's why there's no unity. That's why there's no equity. You've just got pockets of things that people are upset about here, there, and everywhere, but it's just pockets. It's not a totality of the entire fucking stupid ass situation that we're in this country with the GOP leading the pack. Who's going after them? It's such a joke. Who is going after these people? We can't. So guess who has to? And they're not. Other white people. Nah, it's been normalized to the point where they're just watching it like, well, it ain't my problem. Or, it's my problem, but I'm going to lay low and try to avoid being the target. I see it on social media all the time, where if something does go down, everybody else will just sit around watching it. They won't step in. And I've had plenty of instances where that has happened to me personally since I started transitioning, since 2015, where one person will stand up and say, wait a minute, the fuck is going on here? And one person, I can't tell you how many groups that I got kicked out of, and that one person would jump out, and so they'd kick us both out for sticking up for each other. I was in I think trans men and women, trans men, some kind of dating group on that platform. And this white man from Australia came in and was asking the most inappropriately sexual questions of the women in there. And I jumped up and said, I started questioning him. What exactly did that mean? What exactly? And I don't remember exactly what was said because it was quite a while ago. It was before I got banned from the platform permanently. A lot of people don't care about that either. In fact, there's probably plenty of haters out there that's glad that happened to me. But I jumped up and started asking questions, and then this white woman jumped up and she started asking a bunch of questions too, of how appropriate is that question. Before we knew it, he called her a fat bitch and called me a nigger. And I know people saw that. I know people saw that interaction. But the admins of the group were just sitting there doing nothing. And I saw that. And they would not respond to, I sent personal messages to all of the admins of that group about this character from Australia. They think that racism doesn't go on outside of this country. Yes, it does. So they didn't respond. So you know what I did? I snapshotted the conversations and put them in the group. Oh, that got their attention real fucking fast. I put it in the group, and I said, this is what this character said. Do you know? They kicked us all out of the group. Really? Why? For making it plain and clear. This idiot cisgender guy that shouldn't have even been in there, what he said. They were upset that I put the whole conversation back in the group. Pasted it in there. So not only was the guy from Australia racist, so were the admins of the group. And I don't remember the group name. I've got a video of that too, I'm pretty sure. Talking about that. But this is the kind of thing that happens and nobody says a word. Nobody wants to stick their neck out and tell these fucking admins to stop being racist assholes too. Veterans groups. Yeah, I'm talking to you, TVSG. They put me out because I put the when the Colin Kaepernick stuff was happening, there was quite a lot of hysteria around that he was not standing up, that he was standing up against the flag, against veterans, blah, blah, blah. I'm a veteran. I knew it wasn't about that. But a bunch of white people wanted it to be about that. So they changed the narrative. They didn't ask Colin Kaepernick why he knelt. He was kneeling about police brutality. Wasn't kneeling against veterans. He wasn't kneeling against the flag. He was kneeling against police brutality. And anybody that has a problem with that, you're a racist. So what I put in that group, because I was watching the white trans veterans talking about the Colin Kaepernick situation, and I was getting more and more upset. I mean, first of all, why didn't they think there were actually black people that had some black trans veterans that had some feelings about what was going on with the Colin Kaepernick situation? So I was watching the posts of them complaining that he was complaining about the flag. He was protesting about the Star Spangled Banner. He was protesting against veterans when he was not. So I was watching, and somebody said something about the Star Spangled Banner. So I happen to know that the third verse of the Star Spangled Banner is extremely racist, and it talked about slaves. And so I put the whole thing in there. Well, I put the first, the second, and the third verse in there, and I said, this is why I will no longer stand. I won't kneel, but I'm not going to stand and put my hand over my heart to sing this Star Spangled Banner, which was a poem from a racist white man with slaves. So I don't feel one way or the other, and I know, I do feel one way or the other, but I will no longer accommodate that song that the government decided to make our national anthem. So that's what I wanted to say about that. And they got all upset, and one of the guys in there tried to pull rank on me. Well, I'm an officer, and I'm like, I did not back down. I do not black down. That's a new thing that we've came up with this year, or maybe it was the end of last year. Oh my goodness. You're not being brutalized. We are. And you don't give a shit. You would rather back the guys in blue that do this sort of thing like it's the right thing to do. No, it's sick. Them cops are sick. I don't know how they pass psyche evals. Thing is, they're not being evaluated. I think they're being hired because they're thugs. They get a pass through. Sure, we'll hire you. Come on. You're an asshole. You're a thug. You want to kill people and beat them up. Well, we won't ask you anything about that, but come on, we'll hire you. They think hiring college graduates would help the situation. No, it won't. This has nothing to do with your intelligence level. This has to do with hatred. It has to do with conditioning. It has to do with a lot of things that people don't want to look at. And despite some of the most powerfully intelligent people, white people of our time, they get booed. They get shunned. Tim Wise, two white ladies that I can't think of their names, but if I don't know their names now, I'll put them in the description when I think of them. But Jane Elliott, and there's a professor that wrote some books about white fragility and other things like that. Pretty sure y'all know who I'm talking about. But people like that get booed by white people. And they're white. And people wonder why I was looking to leave this country. And I stayed here for economic reasons. Because I really couldn't afford to travel. I couldn't afford to travel all over the place looking for another spot. And I was running out of time. Because I had to make a move. I had to get out of that apartment complex I was living in. I could not tolerate staying there another year. Because they were idiot slumlords. When I was paying a lot of money to live there. Where did they get off being that way? Slumlords. I was paying well over $1,500 a month, $1,800 a month for a one-bedroom apartment. And, while I was going through some of the things I was going through, they never did fix my AC. It was just constantly had a problem. And I wondered if they did other tenants this way. That's what I kept wondering. But I ultimately did not care. I just needed to get out of there. And I went ahead and bought a house. I'm glad I was able to get another house, but I bet my interest rate is higher, that the price of the house is higher than white people living in this subdivision. But, this is just this kind of stuff we have to face and have to swallow and have to put up with and have to deal with on a regular basis and accept it or don't accept it. And in my head, it was like, well, I have to accept it because I need to get out of that place and I'm ready to be a homeowner. So there were trade-offs. I love this place, but, the stuff that I notice, underhanded stuff that I noticed. It's obvious. But, see, when Emmett Till got murdered, it started the whole civil rights movement. Look what happens today when we get murdered. Just the city it happens in, they start protesting a little bit, and then it dies down. It just goes to show you that today, our young people don't have the guts, they don't have the brawn, they don't have the anything to fight back the way we did. Now, I was a little young during the 1960s. I was too young to fight. I was too young to be part of that movement. I had to observe on the sidelines. and watched my mother go through it, and my father. But I knew what was going on because some of that stuff was happening to me. A lot of it was happening to me, and I caught the tail end of the civil rights movement. I was growing up in the middle of it, but because of my father, I was able to escape much of it and not get too hurt. But my sister and I were alone. Nobody knew what we were going through. We were too young to really articulate it or complain or any of that stuff. We were, our mother knew what was happening, but nobody else did, really. I mean, when I'm 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years old, I could pick up the phone and call somebody and say, ooh, you know what happened? I wasn't in that position to talk about all the stuff that happened on a regular basis. I'll tell you one story that I've told before, I think. So they thought it was a good idea in junior high school for my school to have a Black History course. I was in junior high, and I don't know whose idea it was to create that class, taught by white teachers. So the first day of that class, I was sitting there, and it may have been not the first day, but the first day I can remember about that class is the teacher was at the front of the room, and he opened up a newspaper, and he asked me to come to the front of the room. I didn't know. Okay. So I got up and went to the front of the room, and he had the newspaper open, and it was a picture of some black guy. And he said, do you know him? I said, no. Why would I know him? And he said, okay, or whatever, and you can sit back down. And I sat back down. And then I sat there as a little kid and I started fuming. The fuck he asked me, did I know some black person in a newspaper? So I raised my hand. Because he's just talking. So I raised my hand, and he called me to the front of the room, and I went to the front of the room, and I grabbed the newspaper, and I opened it, because, I opened it to a picture of a white guy. And I looked at the teacher, I pointed down at the newspaper, and I said, do you know him? His face turned bright red. The whole class started laughing. And I just turned on my heel and went and sat down. Dumb motherfucker. I'm up here with y'all. Why? How would I know every black person in the city? There's 800,000 people in that city. Town, I'll say. And then I went home and told my mom, and they were in trouble, and they had to disband the class because my mother wasn't having it. You did what? Yeah, I went home and told my mom. She went back up to the class, cussed the teacher out, probably cussed the principal out, and had the class shut down. Said, you people don't know what you're doing. You're going to have a Black History class. You need some black people and teachers. But this is the kinds of things that I experienced. Anywhere from afros were in style. And I thought it was pretty cool to have a cake cutter hanging off my hair. And so I went to school that way. That was just what we did back then. And kids would come up to me and say, oh, do you use that as a weapon? I said, what? That thing in your hair is a cake cutter. I had no idea a cake cutter actually cut cakes. I did not know that. I thought it was something made for our hair. I didn't know it was a real cake cutter. And I didn't know it was a weapon. But just to dig at those kids, I said, maybe I'll do, maybe I don't. And then at some point I went and asked one of my cousins or, some black people, what is this thing that I'm putting in my hair? And they told me. And that it has been used as a weapon. But I didn't. It's just the way white kids are so conditioned that they believe what they see, and that everybody that is black knows what it is and will use it as a weapon, because we are weaponized. Just the color of our skin is weaponized in this country. And they think all black people do the same thing. All black people know each other. All black people look alike. This AI is going to get everybody in trouble too, because it's not tuned for black skin. So already people have gotten a case of mistaken identity and thrown in jail mistakenly. And they don't apologize. They don't care. We have to sue them. And it costs money to sue people for civil rights. It costs money. A lot of us don't have it to pay attorneys who are greedy. There's something else that's going on with regards to my family. My dad married a white woman after he divorced my mother. And that woman walked off with the entire inheritance. And I can't tell you how many lawyers I spoke to about this. But because she's white, they don't want to go after her. And so they jack the price up, what it would cost to represent me, to fight back. They want double-digit thousands of dollars that I don't have to fight back. She knows it. My brother knows it. They all know it. And I'm so sick of the privilege that I see being capitalized on invisibly or visibly in the subconscious of white people. Somewhere in the back of their minds, they know what they're doing is wrong, or their silence is wrong. But, the way this country is laid out and how big it is, they can fly under the radar. Who's going to point them out? Who's going to say anything about those that just watch and don't know how to fight back and don't want to? We fight back even peacefully, and they call us rioters. Because there's white guys sitting in the back burning trash cans. They show up at all these rallies and make it look like the protests are violent. They're not. We only have one of two ways to do anything in this country. One is to protest, the other is to vote. And the voting system is so screwed up. The gerrymandering that's going on, the redistricting and redlining that goes on state to state to state, makes it absolutely impossible for us to have any power. And they still don't want us to vote. They're working on that, state by state by state. You would think it would be a law instead of an amendment that everybody has a right to vote. And they can't get away with the things that they do to make sure they win. The GOP, the GQP, cheating is not off the table for them. They will cheat, they will lie, they will steal to gain favor in the political structure of this nation. Who cares? Do you? If you do, why aren't you talking to your friends, your loved ones, and your relatives? Oh, don't want to get in trouble, don't want to make waves, want to be people pleasers? Oh, I see. We're going to lose this country because of people pleasers. We're going to lose our rights in this country. I'm going to lose my right as a black man and a trans man because other people, well, it's not my experience. So they just ignore it. Anyway, this article, the article that was written at Autostraddle is really a lot of fun, and you can read it of my experience. I didn't really get to talk in detail, or maybe I did talk in detail, but it just wasn't able to be written. Well, it was translated by a dictation software system. So I don't quite sound like myself, because I don't say and, just. There's just a bunch of words that were put in there that I don't necessarily say. But the content was very accurate. And I talk about racism a little bit, but not nearly to the extent that it's happening, because it's all gone under the table. How it shows up and how people implement it is different. They don't even have to say the N word to treat you like the N word. And we have no way of fighting back. Not as an individual against other individuals that decide to be discriminatory or racist towards us. Very difficult to win a civil case. And if you bring that up in the wrong circles, they want to, listen, you can be part of the LGBTQ plus community in this nation, but if you're black, you got to ignore that you're black to gain favor in those organizations. Talk about black issues. Everybody runs for like roaches, like they turn the light on and the roaches run. That's how people act when you bring up racist issues in their environments. Run, and or you'll get a bunch of people mad because you brought it up and they want to jump on you. Or they just want to jump on you because you're black. I've had that happen too. I was on a platform that isn't widely known. I think it was Discord. And I mentioned something about wearing a packer and how, how it makes me feel as a man. And these white boys got all upset because they claim I wasn't being inclusive. Well, I was talking about myself. Why is there need to be inclusive when I'm talking about myself? Okay. Sorry about that. I know that made some noise. Oh, and they insisted that I was saying that I was excluding non-binaries by talking about manhood. Please. Oh, they want to talk about their stuff. Oh, I just dropped my rock again. Okay, they want to talk about their stuff, and they're free to talk about their stuff, but we're not free to talk about our stuff. You see how sneaky and how backhanded that is? They've managed to infiltrate to the point where they're smacking trans men down into it, backing them against the corner so that, you gotta create things where they're not included, or they'll infiltrate and try to change everything and tell you can't use male pronouns, you can't say male things, or everybody in the group will be upset. No, not everybody. Only the non-binaries and the gendered folks that happen to be on their bandwagon will get upset. I am not on anybody's fucking bandwagon. So anyway, I just wanted to express how I could feel my blood boiling from that Emmett Till movie. That movie about Emmett Till, because it triggers everything I've ever gone through as a black person in the United States. A lot of stuff. And I've been writing lately. I want to get something out there by summer. I just have to. I can write everything out and then I'll worry about getting it edited later. Because my story has to be told. And I've got 65 years of triumphs and failures, joy and pain, and everything in between. I've got 65 years of it. And it's going to make a difference in this country. I'm absolutely sure of it because of my personality, my crazy ass sense of humor. I can make people laugh, cry at a drop of a dime. I do that speaking. So, it's just a matter of somebody polishing up my writing to make people do the same from reading a book about my life. Now, the first one is going to be about my transition. And then after that, I'll, finish up my autobiography. That's a lot longer. That's 65 years of stuff that I have to account for. So in order for me to get something out this year, it's just going to just be about my transition. But even during the last 7+ years, is it 8 yet? It'll be 8 in October. I have lived enough life in just the last 8 years to trump people's lives in 10 to 20 years. 20 years of life. That's just how I am. That's how my life has been. All of my life. Maybe it's that, I'm outgoing, I'm out there, I experience people and situations and stuff like that. You know what? I also may put some clips of a video from a party I went to last weekend in here. It was a baby shower, but it was not a baby shower party. It was a party. I might attach clips of that. Me walking through the house. It's real short. So I'm going to sign out. But before I do, I just want to encourage people. I can't tell nobody what to do. But I can encourage you to fight. In any way you can figure out how to do it, do it. Hell, do it anonymously. Do it. Do it in some way. And your vote is how you can really make a difference. Is start paying attention to who's getting in your local politics. Because that's where it starts. And then they pick people out of your local politics to go national every 4 years. But if you aren't paying attention to what's going on locally, you're handing your life over to people to make decisions about your life. Everyday life. Because if you notice, they campaign, they make a lot of promises, they get in office, and all of a sudden, they're out for themselves. Most politicians are not in there for the people. They're in there for their own personal agendas. And so, yeah, is it work to try to figure out who people are and what they're about? Yeah, it's work. But, it's either do that or just have your life run by these idiots who want to send your life backwards. So just think about that. My final thought about the Emmett Till movie is something that Mamie Till Mobley said as she was interviewed after she returned home, she left the trial early because she knew how it was going to turn out, just based on the smear campaign that they were trying to do during the trial of the white men who killed her son. So she said this: "My son's brutalized body meant nothing to Mississippi's criminal justice system. And while they blamed the victim as usual, the federal government stood idly by. If this country fails to protect the black body from hate, America has yet to meet her promise. Either freedom for everyone or freedom fails." She also said, "A month ago, I had a nice apartment in Chicago. I had a good job. I had a son. When something happened to the Negroes in the South, I said, well, that's their business, not mine. Now I know how wrong I was. The lynching of my son has shown me that what happens to any of us, anywhere in the world, had better be the business of us all." So that's what she said. And, there were several takeaways from this about protecting black bodies, the criminal justice system, which now has spread out to everybody in this country. And it seems like, what happens to us on a regular basis means nothing to people, nothing to white people. And then what she said about black people, it not being your business if something like this happens to you and not me. That she realized how wrong she was. But this was how long ago? Or 50 years? 60 years ago? And people are even worse. And notice she used the word lynching, even back then. She used the word lynching when, her son wasn't strung up to a tree. But clearly what those guys did to her was a lynching. And I'll make one more note and then I'll end this thing about Emmett Till. So the Emmett Till Anti-Lynching Act was signed into law on March 29th, 2022. 67 years after Emmett's murder. And if anybody wants to know what the anti-lynching bill says, it's on the internet. And so just Google it. I've got it here, but it's too small for me to read. But I see that there's a lot of holes, a lot of ways that they can interpret things. As long as people can say it was some other reason why they did what they did, it's highly interpretive. And folks have to literally see through the smoke screens and look at the history of somebody and the things that they've said on social media and whatnot, in order for their crimes against humanity to be deemed lynching and to end up getting federally charged, getting a felony for hate crimes in the United States. Now, that was last year, and I don't think I've seen anybody yet to end up being prosecuted with a felony for their hate crimes, especially the police. And there's a lot of websites out there talking about that. How, it applies to regular citizens, but it doesn't necessarily apply to the police because of them being protected by the qualified immunity. So there's that. And I know, because I have personal experience of the civil rights movement, that I am more passionate about it than younger people are, who never saw that stuff, who never experienced Jim Crow, who never, when you experience that stuff, it just has a whole different meaning than when you're just reading it like from history books. I mean, I get plugged right in to experiences in my own personal life because I did experience part of Jim Crow. So educate yourselves, and everybody have a blessed day and a great weekend. The pollinator is out.